Well, not much damage was done, but we came close to doing irreparable damage, and that's why I call it a political weapon of mass destruction. It should not be used.
Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, a man whose name has become synonymous with success, simplicity, and staggering wealth. He built one of the greatest financial empires in history, yet still lives in the same quiet house he bought in 1958. But behind the billions and the business headlines is another story, a family story. While Warren Buffett became a legend of Wall Street, he and his late wife, Susan, raised 3 children in the heart of Nebraska, far from the glamour and excess of billionaire life. They were taught early on that wealth was never the goal, that the true measure of success was how you used it. As Warren once said, "I want to give my kids enough so they can do anything, but not so much that they can do nothing." So what became of the Buffett children? How did they grow up under the shadow of a man whose fortune could change the world, and yet be told they wouldn't inherit it? This is the story of Susan, Howard, and Peter Buffett, 3 lives shaped by purpose, humility, and one of the most extraordinary fathers of all time. Warren Buffett's story begins in Omaha, Nebraska in 1930, the heart of the American Midwest and the city he would always call home. From the start, he was a boy with a restless curiosity about how the world worked. He once said, "I was wired at birth to think about capital allocation." While most kids were collecting baseball cards, Warren was collecting numbers, business statistics, stock prices, and sales figures. His father, Howard Buffett, was a stockbroker who later became a U.S. congressman. His mother, Layla, was a homemaker with a strong sense of discipline. Money was tight during the Great Depression, but Warren's fascination with earning and saving began early. At just 6 years old, he bought 6 packs of Coca-Cola from his grandfather's grocery store and sold each bottle for a small profit. He later recalled, "I always knew I was going to be rich. I never doubted it for a minute." By the age of 11, he had already bought his first stock, 3 shares of City Service Preferred, for himself and his sister. The stock initially dropped in value, but when it later rose slightly, Warren sold it for a small gain. That early sale, he would later say, taught him one of the most important lessons of his life, the value of patience. "If I had just waited, those shares would have tripled. It taught me that good things come to those who don't panic." As a teenager, Warren was running several small businesses, delivering newspapers, selling magazines door to door, and setting up pinball machines in barbershops around Omaha. By the time he graduated high school, he had saved thousands of dollars, an astonishing sum for a young man in the 1940s. After studying economics at the University of Nebraska and later at Columbia Business School, Warren began shaping his philosophy under the mentorship of Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing. Graham's lessons would influence Buffett's approach for the rest of his life. Buy undervalued companies, think long-term, and never let emotions dictate decisions. Warren would later say, "We've hit 10,000 subscribers, and it's all thanks to you. But this is just the beginning. If you want more deep dives, insights, and discoveries, hit that subscribe button. Let's reach those 15,000 subscribers together. Your support means a lot." The best investment you can make is in yourself. In 1952, Warren married Susan Thompson, a woman whose warmth and social grace complemented his quiet intensity. They met through mutual friends, and their connection was instant. She loved people. He loved ideas. Susan was a singer and social activist, and Warren admired her spirit. He once said, "Susie believed in me long before I believed in myself." The couple built a modest life in Omaha, choosing simplicity over luxury even as Warren's fortune began to grow. They raised 3 children, Susan, Howard, and Peter, teaching them empathy, independence, and a grounded view of success. Warren often reminded them, "It's better to be loved than to be rich." Though their marriage was unconventional, Susan moved to San Francisco in the 1970s while Warren stayed in Omaha. Their bond never broke. They remained emotionally close until Susan's death in 2004. Later, Warren found companionship with Astrid Menks, whom Susan had introduced to him years earlier. Astrid and Warren eventually married in 2006 in a quiet, private ceremony at his Omaha home. Warren Buffett's early life wasn't defined by wealth, it was defined by curiosity, discipline, and an unshakable belief in long-term thinking. From a boy selling soda bottles on the streets of Omaha to the man who became one of the world's richest and most respected investors, his journey was driven by simple values: patience, kindness, and the power of compounding, not just in money, but in love and life. As Buffett himself once said, success is having people you love actually love you back. Susan Alice Buffett was born in 1953 in Omaha, Nebraska, the first child of Warren and Susan Thompson Buffett. She grew up in a home where love, humility, and curiosity meant far more than money. While her father was building his investment empire, her mother was shaping the family's conscience, and young Susie absorbed lessons from both. She remembers her childhood not in terms of wealth, but warmth. "My dad was in the house and there. I never felt like we couldn't interrupt him," she once said. Though often seen with a book in hand, Warren was present, for dinner every night, for homework, even if his explanations of math were too advanced, and for quiet moments like rocking her to sleep while singing "Over the Rainbow." "I have this insanely sentimental attachment to that song," she said, recalling how he later recorded a karaoke version for her as a gift. As she grew up, she learned how to reach his famously focused mind. "If you start going into some long things, you lose him," she laughed. "You have to talk in sound bites." Yet she always admired his voracious curiosity. "He absorbs everything and remembers it," she said, "and his integrity. There's not an ounce of greed in him. He doesn't care about the money, he's doing what he loves, and by accident he makes a whole bunch of money." Her mother, Susan Thompson Buffett, was the family's heart and compass. Susie calls her the reason Berkshire Hathaway is Berkshire Hathaway, crediting her with understanding early on that Warren's work required both space and faith. She totally supported him, enabled him. She knew there was something big there. Her mother's compassion, empathy, and commitment to helping others shaped Susie's own lifelong dedication to philanthropy. After studying at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, Susan Alice pursued a career in education before devoting herself full-time to charitable work. She founded and chairs the Sherwood Foundation, which focuses on improving public education and reducing poverty in Nebraska. She also leads the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation, one of the world's most impactful charitable organizations which funds college scholarships and global humanitarian initiatives. In her personal life, Susan married Alan Greenberg, with whom she had 2 children, Alan Greenberg, born in 1983, and Emma Buffett Greenberg, born in 1989. Her children have largely stayed out of the public eye, raised with the same grounded values she grew up with: humility, kindness, and an awareness that wealth carries responsibility. She and Alan eventually divorced, but remain connected through their shared commitment to family and philanthropy. Those close to Susan describe her as approachable, warm, and deeply compassionate, a quiet leader who prefers action to attention. In interviews, she often emphasizes that her parents never raised their children to worship money. "They taught us to care about what money could do to make things better for someone else," she said. And through her work, she's done exactly that, turning the Buffett philosophy of modest living and meaningful giving into a lifelong mission. Today, Susan Alice Buffett lives in Omaha, close to her family. She continues to lead major philanthropic efforts while maintaining a low public profile. Her father once said proudly, "My kids don't just talk about helping people, they do it." And Susie leads by example. Howard Graham Buffett was born on December 16, 1954, in Omaha, Nebraska, the second child of Warren and Susan Thompson Buffett. He was named after his grandfather, Howard Buffett Sr., who served as a U.S. congressman. From an early age, Howard was drawn not to the world of finance, but to the outdoors, to the fields, the soil, and the rhythm of farm life. As a child, Howard preferred driving tractors over crunching numbers. Warren Buffett once remarked with affection that his son always had a love for the land. While many assumed he would follow his father into business, Howard was determined to find his own path, one built on hard work and independence rather than inheritance. After completing his studies at Augustana College in Illinois, Howard embarked on a diverse career that bridged agriculture, business, and philanthropy. Rather than joining the investment world, he began working in farming and agribusiness. Over the years, he served on the boards of major companies, including Coca-Cola, Archer Daniels Midland, and Berkshire Hathaway. Yet, despite these corporate roles, his true passion remained rooted in the earth. Howard went on to establish the Howard G. Buffett Foundation, which focuses on fighting hunger, improving food security, and supporting sustainable farming practices across the globe. His foundation has worked in over 100 countries, helping farmers rebuild soil, improve yields, and create lasting systems of nourishment. Howard has always believed that meaningful change requires personal involvement, and he spends much of his time visiting projects, walking the fields, and listening to farmers. "I want to feed the world, one farmer at a time," he often says. He owns and operates several farms in Illinois, where he experiments with conservation techniques and sustainable agriculture. Unlike the image of the billionaire's son, Howard prefers the simplicity of rural life. He is known to drive his own pickup truck, rise early, and work side by side with his team. Beyond farming, Howard has devoted time to public service, serving as a volunteer sheriff's deputy and supporting law enforcement training programs in his community. He approaches philanthropy with the same grounded practicality that defines his farming, solving problems directly and effectively. An accomplished author, Howard has written several books that reflect his philosophy and experiences. His works include Fortress America, On the Edge, Balancing Earth's Resources, and 40 Chances, Finding Hope in a Hungry World, which he co-wrote with his son, Howard Warren Buffett. The title 40 Chances refers to the average number of growing seasons a farmer has in a lifetime, a metaphor for making the most of the opportunities each person is given. Howard married Devin Morse, and together they have one son, Howard Warren Buffett, born in 1983. Like his father and grandfather, Howard Warren combines business acumen with a deep commitment to social impact. He has worked with the United Nations, taught at Columbia University, and founded initiatives focused on conflict resolution and economic empowerment. Warren Buffett has often said that his grandson brings together a Buffett brain and a Buffett heart. Throughout his life, Howard has spoken candidly about the challenge of growing up in the shadow of one of the most famous investors in the world. "You can't escape the shadow," he once said, "but you can choose what you do within it." And he has done exactly that, building a life defined not by wealth, but by purpose and contribution. Today, Howard Graham Buffett continues to live in Decatur, Illinois, where he oversees his farms and foundation. His work embodies the same principles that shaped his upbringing: integrity, perseverance, and compassion. While his father built financial empires, Howard chose to cultivate the land and the lives of those who depend on it. Warren Buffett once reflected proudly on his son's mission. "Howie's doing more good with a plow than I ever could with a portfolio." Peter Andrew Buffett was born on May 4, 1958, in Omaha, Nebraska, the youngest child of Warren and Susan Thompson Buffett. While his siblings were drawn to education and social causes, Peter's world was always filled with sound. Music spoke to him from an early age, becoming both a language and an escape, a way to express what words could not. The Buffett household was full of warmth, humor, and a quiet sense of discipline. His parents raised their 3 children to live simply despite their growing wealth. Warren often said that he and Susan wanted their kids to understand effort and empathy more than money. They lived in the same Omaha home, attended public schools, and learned the value of independence. Peter absorbed those lessons deeply. As a teenager, Peter showed a natural talent for composing and performing. After graduating from high school, he moved to California to pursue a career in music. Unlike many children of billionaires, he had no inheritance to rely on. Warren had already made it clear that his wealth would be given away to charity, not passed down. Peter supported himself by writing jingles and working in small recording studios, gradually building his name through hard work and persistence. His big break came when he began composing for television and film. One of his earliest successes was creating music for MTV, including the iconic station logos and themes of the 1980s. Later, he contributed to major projects such as the score for Dances with Wolves, which won an Academy Award for Best Original Score. His ethereal piano and synthesizer compositions became known for their emotional depth and cinematic quality. Peter's music career expanded through a series of solo albums that blended ambient, classical, and world influences. His albums, including One by One, Spirit, and Lost Frontier, earned him a devoted international following. His work is often described as reflective and uplifting, a musical mirror of his personal philosophy. In addition to music, Peter has always been a thoughtful observer of life. In 2010, he published Life is What You Make It: Find Your Own Path to Fulfillment, a best-selling memoir that combines personal stories with life lessons drawn from his unconventional upbringing. In the book, he reflects on growing up as Warren Buffett's son, writing, "My dad gave me the greatest gift a parent can give: unconditional love and the freedom to find my own way." The book was praised for its honesty, humility, and universal message about purpose over privilege. Peter has also become a prominent advocate for social justice and philanthropy. Together with his wife, Jennifer Buffett, he co-chairs the Novo Foundation, an organization dedicated to empowering girls and women, advancing education, and fostering emotional intelligence in communities around the world. The Foundation's mission echoes his mother's compassion and his father's sense of responsibility, turning wealth into a force for change. The couple has also supported programs addressing gender equality, indigenous rights, and trauma recovery. Peter often emphasizes that their goal is not charity from above, but collaboration and listening. Real change, he says, comes from trusting people to know what they need to heal and to thrive. In his personal life, Peter has remained grounded and private. He and Jennifer divide their time between New York and the Midwest, maintaining a lifestyle focused on creativity, community, and purpose. Like his siblings, Peter's relationship with his father is one of mutual respect. Though their professional worlds are very different, they share the same moral compass. "Money is not the goal," Peter once said. "It's the means, and the real success is what you do with it." Today, Peter Buffett continues to write, perform, and advocate for a more compassionate world. Through his art, his writing, and his foundation, he has built a life that reflects the deeper values of the Buffett family: integrity, independence, and empathy. Warren Buffett has said that he is proud of his children not for their achievements, but for who they are. Peter, in particular, represents the creative spirit of the family. proof that even under the long shadow of great wealth, purpose, and artistry can flourish on their own terms. Now, well into his 90s, Warren Buffett remains one of the most respected figures in global finance and philanthropy. Despite his age, he continues to lead Berkshire Hathaway from his modest office in Omaha, Nebraska, the same city where his journey began nearly a century ago. He still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500, drives himself to work every day, and enjoys his simple routines: McDonald's breakfasts, cherry Coke, and watching baseball. Buffett's work ethic remains legendary. Even after decades of success, he continues to read for hours daily, consuming newspapers, annual reports, and books with the same curiosity he had as a teenager selling soda bottles. When asked why he still works, Buffett simply says, "I tap dance to work every day." But while he has built one of the world's largest fortunes, Warren's focus in recent decades has shifted toward giving it away. In 2006, he made one of the largest charitable commitments in history, pledging to donate more than 99% of his wealth to philanthropic causes. The majority of that money has been directed to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and to the foundations run by his 3 children, ensuring that his fortune would serve humanity long after he is gone. Buffett explained this decision with characteristic simplicity. "If you're in the luckiest 1% of humanity, you owe it to the rest of humanity to think about the other 99%. In 2010, he partnered with Bill and Melinda Gates to create the Giving Pledge, a campaign encouraging billionaires to commit at least half their wealth to charity. Today, hundreds of the world's wealthiest individuals have joined the initiative, inspired by his example. At the same time, Buffett's love for life's small pleasures hasn't changed. He enjoys bridge, root beer floats, and reading about history. He still jokes about his diet, saying, "I eat like a 6-year-old because it's the only age I've ever been good at." And even at 90 plus, his optimism about America's future remains unwavering. "Never bet against America," he often tells shareholders. "It has always come through." In his personal life, Buffett continues to live quietly with his wife, Astrid Menks, whom he married in 2006. Their partnership, built on companionship and shared simplicity, reflects the same grounded approach that has defined his entire life. When asked what he wants to be remembered for, Buffett doesn't mention money or success. He says, "The measure of success is not whether you have a lot of money, but whether the people you care about love you." His children, Susan, Howard, and Peter, embody that sentiment. Each of them has carried his lessons into the world, shaping their own legacies rooted in compassion, purpose, and integrity. Today, Warren Buffett is more than just an investor or a billionaire. He is a teacher, a philanthropist, and a living reminder that true wealth comes not from what you keep, but from what you give. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago, he once said. Warren Buffett has planted many, in business, in philanthropy, and most of all, in the lives of those he loves. And that's the story of Warren Buffett and his children, a family shaped not by wealth, but by values. Susan, Howard, and Peter each took their own path, one through education, one through the soil, and one through music. But all 3 carried forward the same quiet wisdom their father taught them, that success is about purpose, compassion, and integrity, not possessions. As Warren Buffett himself says, "The measure of success in life is not money, but whether the people you care about actually love you." Through his life, his work, and his family, Buffett has proven that a rich life is one built on love, learning, and giving back. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of extraordinary people behind the headlines. Tell us, which of Warren Buffett's children's paths inspired you the most? Thank you for watching, and remember, the greatest investment you can ever make is in people.